Hi, Ebenezer Animal Experts. Today I am joining with you to have the conclusion of our animal publishing research project. We have been spending several days working together to gather information and to write a piece that shares the learning that we have done about the animals we have studied. I have heard and seen some exciting projects going on, heard and learned some interesting animal facts that I did not know, and I have walked you through step by step of how to gather information, to organize notes, so that you are taking information you learn and putting it in your own words instead of copying it from a book. That is not okay. We are putting it in our own words to share our knowledge and what we've learned with others in a form of writing. Some of you have written brochures like me. Others, if you recall, I talked about the fact that you could write a book and share a book that you write, giving it a title cover and possibly a table of contents. Today, I even had a meeting with a student. We were reading an informational text about a mother dog who was taking care of her puppies. And King and I noticed at the end, it even had a glossary. And that is one of the features of text that you might find in an informational book if you are writing your own informational book. So if you chose not to do a brochure like I did and you've made a book, you might have that table of contents in the front or that glossary in the back. I talked to you about some words that I would put in bold or underline. So we're using all pieces of our second grade learning together in a puzzle to create a final project. And the drum roll of it is you're going to get to share your project with your classmates next week in your Zoom. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Zooms next week will be you bringing your project to the group and sharing what you've learned and how you presented your information. In our classroom, when we've done this project, we have always done a culminating project of a culminating activity or putting together the end of our unit of study by taking a field trip. And so Ms. Hodge and Ms. Potter and I are kind of sad that we're missing out on that second grade field trip, but we have some great things to share with you in that. Normally, that field trip would be to the Riverbank Zoo here in Columbia, in South Carolina, but with all that is going on in our world now and so much virtual learning, there are several places that you can go online, and one of them is called, or one of the sites is called wearethemighty.com. If you get your parents' help to go on wearethemighty.com, you can take a virtual field trip to a zoo in San Diego, in Atlanta, in Cincinnati, so you could see animals that you've studied or animals that you've researched about in lots of other zoos besides just the Riverbank Zoo. So even though we can't take that trip together to finish our study, we are loving that you have the opportunity to look at other zoos. If you want to go to Riverbanks and you can't get a trip there, there is a site in South Carolina called knowitall.org through SCETV that does take you on virtual trips there to Riverbanks. So that is something you can do to finish. And one of the things that I have not gotten to share with you in my processing of the writing is that when my brochure is folded back up, it would have a front cover. And you're right, that front cover is kind of the thing that catches your reader's attention. That cover page of your book is what grabs your reader's attention. And you want something to catch their attention and make them want to read more. So definitely when I finish this, if I were showing it to my classmates, I would want to add pictures. I would want to add a creative title, but you could even inside of your book have pages that have pictures with diagrams. So I didn't print any out, but if I were taking this to my Zoom meeting with my class, I would love to try my drawing skills to show an ostrich on the front cover and label its feather. Today, I'm going to use some things that I could draw. And I won't draw it. I'll probably get Mr. Jeff to help me. But I would draw to show on my interesting facts because I learned some really cool things about the size of an ostrich. That bird is big. An ostrich can weigh up to 330 pounds. And the thing that I thought was really interesting in our study last week with math about fractions and proportions and partitioning shapes is that an ostrich, half of its height is in its neck. So it can weigh 330 pounds and its height, half of it, is in its neck. So if the ostrich were 6 feet tall, you could divide that 6 into 2 equal parts and see that its neck could be 3 feet tall, almost as tall as some of you. So I'm going to put my interesting facts section together. I found some things about the speed of how fast the ostrich could run. That would definitely be an interesting fact that I would want to put in that area. And it's a bird. But do you know something? It doesn't fly. It has feathers, but because of its size, it travels by running and not flying. So I'm going to fix my last section of interesting facts. I am going to have you notice, if you recall, I made a mistake in my writing on my sloppy copy. And so therefore, I told you at school we would definitely use some tape to cover that up and correct that error to make sure it was the best writing that I could do. So I'm going to put my label for interesting facts. And I would also go back, if this were my final published piece, and you might make these headings have bubble letters, or you may make these headings have, I apologize, I'm trying to get to the, you would make these headings have bubble letters or some kind of interesting artistic way to grab your attention with those headings. But even though it's going to be my introduction for this interesting facts section, even though an ostrich is a bird, it can't fly. Now I use that for my introduction sentence to this section because I've started with an ostrich and ostriches and it and they, and I've used the ostrich as my grabber for the sentence each time, and I don't want that to be my introduction here in this interesting fact section. I want to just jump right in. So I've said, even though an ostrich is a bird, it can't fly. Its size is, I want to think of a good adjective. We worked on adjectives a few weeks ago. I don't want to just say it's big. Its size is gigantic. An ostrich can weigh 330 pounds. Now, I'm on my sloppy copy here, and I'm going to add something to this piece right here because as I was writing that, an ostrich can weigh that much, but does that mean every ostrich weighs that much? No. So I want to fix this, and I can use my boo-boo tape to make it nice and neat. So an ostrich can weigh up to, that means it can weigh up to, that's the biggest one. Some of them might be smaller, but they're very large. I also want to include in that part the fact that we talked about the ostrich's height, the height of an ostrich. We talked about its weight. Its height is made up by its neck being half its height. Now, I don't really love how that sentence sounds. The more I think about it, I've got height and height in there. And I might change that up and edit that and revise that sentence a little bit, because this is my sloppy copy. The height of an ostrich is made up with half of its height being the height of its neck. I like that one better. So I'm going to put a little question mark here on my sloppy copy, and I'm going to make this sentence that be my place that I think I need to go back and make some edits on it. And I might make some revision there to make that sentence sound a little clearer. The last interesting fact, I've included 3. I've included about the fact that it can't fly. Its size is gigantic. I used a good adjective there. I've put the weight and the height. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was that it can run 45 miles per hour. Does that go here with this size part, or do you think I need to put that up here with this flying part? Oh my goodness, boys and girls, you heard the thunder. I've got to finish quickly. It talks about the fact that it can't fly. So the sentence that I want to add right here is that I'm going to go back and put here with this thought, however, it can run 45 miles per hour. Okay? And then the last thing I want to say is an ostrich. I'm going to look back at my notes on this. I found out that they can live almost 30 to 40 years. So I was going to say an ostrich has a long life and can live, again, up to 30 to 40 years. Now, very quickly, let me remind you that we talked about the fact that this interesting facts section of my brochure, I'm probably going to do some work here, since this is my sloppy copy, and make some corrections. So I told you this sentence right here about it, the height of its neck. I didn't really love how that sounded. I want to work on the structure of that sentence, and I'll probably do some of my editing there. I also, because this is a brochure, have the back side of this piece to fix that up and make sure it's nice and neat. If you notice, when I made my correction over here on Africa from when we worked together last time, I did not completely rewrite that section. I used some boo-boo tape or some paper to correct it. And I would not want to publish this piece like this, but I definitely will use this to go back and make my final copy and my final edits. The other thing I've mentioned to you is because interesting facts usually had more information, you could go on the back side of that brochure, or if you're in a book, you could your chapter on interesting facts could take up 2 or 3 pages. I've finished the 3 main parts that I wanted you to include in your project: basic needs, habitat, interesting facts. I still have some editing to do before I'm ready to publish. Some of you have mentioned to me in our Zoom meetings that you are not done with your research yet, and so you're a little bit behind on getting it written. Please remember that this project is included in 2 parts of our curriculum. First of all, you're responsible for doing the research with science standards to learn about the animal groups. Also, the writing and presenting of informational text is something that you're growing toward in getting ready for 3rd grade. So the amount of text that you could write and the stamina of which you wrote at the beginning of 2nd grade has grown, and your project should have that editing checklist of all the things that show capital letters at the beginning of sentences, capitalization, punctuation at the end of sentences, complete thoughts, good number of sentences in your words to make sure they are strong sentences, at least 5 or 6. Definitely no 3-word sentences that say it is big. We want it to have good details. Its size is gigantic. that has more voice. So definitely show off those things that you've grown in. We can't wait to see your projects on Zoom next week. Have a great evening.